Hello, my name is Caitlin Morose, and I am the Stewardship Coordinator with Saskatchewan Prairie Conservation Action Plan, or PCAP. Today, I have a short presentation for you called Whose Nest Is This? And you have a chance to learn about bird species that are listed as at risk here in Saskatchewan. So let's start with one of my favorites, the burrowing owl. So the burrowing owl in real life is about the size of a pop can on legs, and they are an endangered species. So that means that there's not many of them left. Their numbers are dropping for the last several years, and we need to help them to be able to prevent them from going extinct. They are a really special bird, and I like them because they borrow a burrow from a gopher or a badger. So they don't dig their own hole. They don't have any hands. So they borrow one and they will build their nest deep down in the burrow. And that way it's safe from predators. And the female or the mother will stay down there and keep the eggs warm in the springtime. And the male is the one that flies around and brings back food for the female, grasshoppers, beetle, and mice. And you can see in the picture here that they like to live in the native prairie, and you can find them alongside cattle or bison. And one of the reasons is that they like to use dung from cows or bison to line their nests. They're so interesting. The second bird is called a Ferogenous hawk. So you may see them perched on a fence post, on a sign, or even on power lines. They like to soar really high in the sky looking for prey like mice or gophers, so they're good to have around. And they build a huge nest with twigs and sticks, whatever they can find. And they will use a cliff, a tree, or a building, and that way their nest stays safe from predators. And this species is considered to be climate endangered. That means as our climate changes, there'll be less habitat available for it left. The barn swallow, people are often surprised to hear the barn swallow is a species at risk because there's used to be all over the place. Um, but they're a species now that's population has been declining. So they use barns, homesteads, abandoned buildings, sometimes even build their nest on our homes, garages, or barns. So they like to live where people live. And they build a nest with mud, grass, twigs, and they go back and forth 1,000 times carrying all these little pieces to build their nest. And um, they'll build their nest and they'll use it again and again. Now, unfortunately, with all of the poop there, sometimes people like to not like, but need to knock the nest off so that way they don't get poop all over their house. But across the prairies, this has meant that the population of barn swallows is declining. A family of barn swallows is good to have around because they can eat thousands of mosquitoes in the summer. The Sprague's pipit is a small brown bird the size of a sparrow, and they're a bird that you're more likely to hear than you are to see. And that's because the male flies really high in the sky singing a beautiful song. And they're a threatened species, meaning the population is starting to decline. So we need to help them before they become an endangered species. And the Sprague's pipit could be considered a little fussy. They only live in the native prairie ecosystem. Native prairie means land that has never been changed or cultivated or altered. It's the same way it's always been. They are known as the Goldilocks bird because they prefer grass not too tall or too short. So look for Sprague's pipits in native prairie pastures or rangelands that have been grazed by cattle. The piping plover is an endangered species, and this bird lays their eggs on the sandy gravel area beside ponds, lakes, sloughs, or rivers, and they hunt for bugs on the beach. Draining wetlands will ruin the habitat for wildlife like piping plovers. Keeping cattle and pets off small beaches during the springtime is the best thing we can do to help them. The loggerhead shrike is the size of a robin. So if you know that bird with a bright red belly, but don't let it fool you. This small bird is a ferocious predator. You can see they've got a little hooked beak there. They will impale their prey on thorny bushes and trees or even barbed wire fences. And they like to eat mice, frogs, snakes, insects, whatever they can find. They are not fussy. And look for them near shelter belts, rivers, or wetlands. And they use twigs to build their nest. So, if you're ready to play a game, here's a few instructions. So, birds' nests come in all different shapes and sizes. And this game has 6 nests from birds that live in Saskatchewan that are considered species at risk. And this means they're not doing well and they need our help. So, how can you help them? Well, learning more about these birds is the first step. Who's ready to play? You can download the game and see if you know the answers and see what you remembered. Thanks for joining us today.